Chosen one, pause in this moment, because the dreams, emotions, and sudden images that have appeared throughout this season are gradually coming together to help you understand the path of your own future. You have seen more than you realize. At the time, you simply did not possess enough calmness and clarity to recognize the meaning hidden within. Certain dreams have returned again and again, carrying the same setting, the same face, or a feeling that is strangely familiar. There have been moments in ordinary life when you suddenly felt as though you had stood in that place before, heard those words before, or somehow knew what was about to happen. You wondered whether it was merely imagination, a confused memory, or an insignificant coincidence. But today, I want you to slow down and look more deeply, because these experiences may be invitations, helping you recognize possibilities that have quietly existed within your journey for a very long time. For many months, perhaps even years. You have carried a feeling that your life would not remain forever in its present position. Even when nothing seemed to change outwardly, something within you continued urging you toward a wider place. At times, you saw an image of yourself living in a peaceful environment, doing work that gave meaning to your heart, or standing beside people who genuinely valued you. Those images may have appeared for only a few seconds before disappearing. Yet the impression they left remained for a long time. You did not understand why they moved you so deeply, nor why a future that had never happened could feel so familiar. I want you to understand that certain possibilities of the future have been planted as seeds within your thoughts, not so that you will sit still and wait, but so that you will recognize the direction in which you are being called to move. Imagine that at 3:33 in the morning, I entered a vast theater existing beyond every boundary ordinary sight could measure. There were no enclosed walls, because rows of screens stretched like starlight across a sky without an ending. Countless people sat silently in the seats, all looking forward, yet each one saw a different story. One person saw themselves overcoming a season of illness. Another saw a home being restored. Another saw a new road opening after years of believing everything had reached a dead end. These images were not shown merely to awaken curiosity, but to plant the courage they would need before the true turning point appeared. In the stillness of that place, an angel approached and said that this was where future possibilities were revealed, through very gentle signs, allowing each person to recognize their direction while still preserving the freedom to choose. Then that angel brought me before a screen radiating gentle light. When I looked upon it, I recognized the story of your life. I saw the nights when you awakened from a vivid dream, remained sitting for a long time, and tried to remember every detail. I saw the moments when you passed through a place you had never visited before. Yet your heart was filled with familiarity. I saw an idea that repeatedly appeared within your mind, even though you tried to dismiss it because it seemed too great or too distant from your present ability. I also saw the times when you clearly sensed that change was approaching, but because you had no visible evidence, you criticized yourself for being unrealistic. My beloved child, what you saw was not necessarily a fixed record of every event that will happen, but it may have been a reflection of what is being prepared, of choices that will soon appear, and of the person you are capable of becoming. Recurring dreams do not always come merely to tell you a story. They may be showing you an unhealed fear, a dream you have not dared to acknowledge, or a door before which you continue standing without enough courage to open it. If you repeatedly dream that you are running along a long road, something deep within you may desire freedom from circumstances that have kept you stagnant. If you continually see a house filled with light, you may be longing for a place of belonging where you do not need to pretend to be strong or ask permission to have peace. If you dream of standing before a crowd but cannot speak, a part of you may desire to live more honestly and stop diminishing your own voice. Do not rush to assign a rigid explanation to every symbol. Observe the emotion left behind, because that emotion often speaks more clearly than the image itself. The feeling of déjà vu may also become a very gentle reminder. When a moment suddenly feels familiar, do not panic or assume that everything has been arranged so completely that you are unable to change it. See it instead as an invitation to become more fully present. Your mind may have recognized a pattern similar to something in the past, or you may be standing before a choice resembling one you have already faced. That familiar moment gives you an opportunity to respond differently. In the past, you may have remained silent, but today you can speak. In the past, you chased what exhausted you, but today you can stop. In the past, fear made the decision, but today you can choose with discernment. Your future is not shaped only by what you see in dreams, but by the way you act when a real opportunity appears. I do not want you to live in a state of continually searching for signs while forgetting the present. The images revealed to you were not intended to turn you into someone who only waits for a miracle to complete itself. If you have repeatedly seen yourself entering a new profession, begin learning the necessary skills. If you feel drawn toward a particular place, investigate it wisely instead of acting impulsively. If you have seen an image of a peaceful relationship, learn to establish boundaries and heal the habits that make you vulnerable to returning to what is unhealthy. Every beautiful vision requires a foundation capable of supporting it. I may show you the door, but you still need to prepare your feet to walk through it and your hands to preserve what you receive. You must also remember that not every dream is a prediction. Some dreams are simply the mind's way of arranging stress, memories, and images absorbed during the day. Do not allow one frightening dream to convince you that disaster will certainly happen. Genuine guidance from what is noble will not hold you in panic, but lead you toward peace, responsibility, and wisdom. Write down the dreams that return frequently, but do not rush to interpret them while your emotions remain intense. Over time, you may see the pattern more clearly and understand what needs attention. If your sleep is repeatedly interrupted, your dreams leave you exhausted, or they affect your life during the day. Care for your health and seek appropriate support. Caring for yourself does not diminish the sacred meaning of the journey you are walking. What I want you to understand today is that what you once saw was not shown to make you fear the future, but to help you begin living in a way that is more worthy of that future. Perhaps you saw a more peaceful version of yourself, because the time has come to stop giving energy to meaningless conflict. Perhaps you saw a life of greater abundance, because you are being called to learn how to manage what you already possess. Perhaps you sensed that a new connection was approaching, because you are maturing beyond the willingness to accept incomplete affection. The fragments of imagery appearing within you are not guarantees that everything will automatically become real. They are reminders that a wide field lies ahead, but you still need to sow through your choices, discipline, and perseverance. my beloved child, today the curtain has not been lifted to reveal your entire future, but to help you understand that you have never been completely blind upon this road. Repeated desires, inner promptings, and gentle visions have many times directed you toward the same truth. Stop pretending that you do not know what needs to change. Take one small but honest step today. Rewrite the plan, begin what you have delayed, establish a boundary, or leave a habit that continues pulling you backward. When you do this, the images that once existed only in dreams will begin receiving a foundation in real life. I do not want you to remain only a spectator, sitting and watching the film of your future. I want you to rise from your seat and become the person who writes each scene with me through awareness, courage, and pure choices. The future you saw is not as distant as it appears. It is already beginning to form within the decision you make from this moment forward. My beloved child, a quiet struggle has taken place around your journey. But what belongs to you has not been abandoned, because Archangel Michael has guarded what fear, chaos, and despair tried to take before this day arrived. I know there were mornings when you awakened feeling heavy, even though you tried to rest the night before. Certain dreams caused you to wake with a racing heart, and at times anxiety suddenly overwhelmed you, making it difficult to understand what was happening within. But do not allow those sensations to frighten you, and do not treat them as proof that you have been defeated. Sometimes they result from pressure you have held for too long, unspoken sadness, and exhaustion accumulated through many days of pretending to be strong. If heaviness in your chest, difficulty breathing, or panic appears frequently, care for yourself wisely and seek appropriate support. I do not want you to ignore the signals of your body. Sacred protection does not separate you from reality. It leads you toward wiser choices that preserve your health, peace, and ability to continue. During the days when you believed you were merely enduring an ordinary difficult season, Michael stood beside you as a reminder that fear was not permitted to determine the road ahead. Certain things tried to steal your focus through unnecessary conflict. Some circumstances pulled you into chaos so that you would no longer have enough strength to complete what mattered. Old memories returned precisely when you were preparing to move forward, causing you to doubt whether you would fail again. Yet every time you still chose to rise, fulfill your responsibilities, and preserve an upright heart, you protected what was precious within you. Michael does not only fight for you in matters beyond your sight. He also strengthens your courage so that you can say no, leave places that drain you, and refuse to give power to negative words. His sword represents the discernment that helps you separate falsehood from truth, while his shield reminds you that peace must be protected through both faith and action. Now, the battle is changing direction. What repeatedly obstructed you is beginning to lose power, not because every difficulty will disappear overnight, but because you no longer respond as the person you were during former months. Your miracle has traveled through a long journey, through times when you believed the door would never open, and moments when you prepared to surrender because you saw no sign. But I want you to understand that a great blessing arriving before you possess sufficient discernment may become something that leads you astray. A good opportunity may be handled poorly while you remain deeply afraid of rejection. A beautiful relationship may be misunderstood while you still carry old wounds. A powerful change may overwhelm you if you have not learned to establish boundaries and preserve balance. Therefore, delay is not always rejection. Many times, I used the waiting itself to prepare you, so that when goodness arrived, you would not grasp it through desperation, but receive it through maturity. How many times did you quietly ask when the breakthrough would come? Why you had to wait so long, and why others seemed to move forward more quickly? I heard every question, including those you only thought and never spoke. What you could not see was how many distractions were removed from your road, how many impulsive decisions were prevented, and how many unsuitable connections departed before they could hurt you more deeply. Sometimes you called it loss, while heaven called it protection. Sometimes you believed a plan had been destroyed, when in truth you had just been rescued from an unsuitable outcome. The delays, chaos, and emotional pain that once stood in your way were not proof that your future had closed. They were layers of fog through which you needed to walk in order to learn the difference between the voice of fear and the guidance of peace. Michael watched over your journey during the moments when you nearly gave up. He was there when you sat alone, after a conversation that left your heart burdened, when you wondered whether you had enough strength to begin again, and when you wanted to return to an old place merely because the new remained uncertain. That protection did not always appear through a dramatic sign. Sometimes it was a thought telling you to stop before sending a message in anger. Sometimes it was an inner prompting that caused you to examine an offer carefully before accepting it. Sometimes it was a trustworthy person appearing at the right moment to remind you that you did not need to solve everything alone. Certain battles are won without noise, through one calm decision. Dangerous doors are sometimes closed, simply because you possess enough discernment not to enter. These small choices preserved your direction from being stolen. The miracle is approaching according to my arrangement, but you need to understand how to preserve it. Do not immediately tell every plan to people who have not demonstrated sincerity. Do not allow excitement to make you overlook important details. Do not hand over all decision-making authority merely because someone says words that make you feel recognized. Good things must be nurtured through patience, transparency, and healthy boundaries. When an opportunity appears, examine whether it brings lasting peace or only temporary excitement. When someone enters your life, observe their actions instead of merely listening to promises. When a door opens, walk through with gratitude while keeping your eyes awake. A genuine blessing will not require you to surrender your dignity in order to keep it, nor force you to live in endless chaos. This is why you feel the need to continue listening. It is not because you must fear that leaving once will cause something good to disappear, but because deep within you know you are standing before a change that needs to be received with maturity. The sudden awareness you feel is evidence that you no longer want to live through old reactions. You are beginning to understand that you cannot enter a new season while continually expecting the worst. You cannot receive peace while repeatedly returning to conversations that create chaos. Neither can you preserve a miracle while giving access to people who only know how to use your kindness. I am teaching you to protect what is approaching, not through fear, but through discernment. Keep private what needs to remain private. Speak clearly about what must be addressed, and slow down when you do not yet possess enough information to decide. My beloved child, this is not a moment of entertainment for you to hear. and then forget. It is a reminder that your time has value, your peace must be protected, and your future should not be surrendered to old habits. I did not waste the years you spent waiting. Every time you had to begin again taught you something necessary. Every closed door helped you understand what no longer fit. Every quiet season deepened your ability to listen. Now, as movement begins, you will not enter like someone in lack trying to seize anything available. You will enter as someone who knows who they are, knows what is worthy, and knows how to preserve what is entrusted to them. Therefore, breathe more slowly and lift your head. Do not allow yesterday's heaviness to convince you that tomorrow will be the same. The battle changed direction the moment you stopped allowing fear to give commands. Michael remains beside you, but you must also cooperate with that protection through rest, care for your health, boundaries, and choices that bring clarity. The miracle is not only what is approaching you, the miracle is also the person you have become. After everything that tried to make you collapse, you did not disappear. You are still standing here, more discerning, gentler, and stronger. Preserve that peace, because what is approaching does not need a perfect person, but an awakened heart, capable of recognizing, receiving, and preserving it. My beloved child, the dreams, feelings, and images that have appeared within you throughout many years are not entirely meaningless, because they may be early glimpses of a future for which you are being prepared. There were nights when you awakened with a racing heart, feeling as though you had just returned from a distant place where you saw a life completely different from your present reality. You saw yourself standing in places you had never visited, meeting people you had never known, doing work you never believed you were capable of performing, or living within a peace your present busy days could not provide. When you awakened, you often laughed quietly and assumed it was only imagination. You pushed the images aside, continued your ordinary work, and tried to forget the unusual feeling that remained. Yet they returned, not in exactly the same form, but always carrying a familiar tone, like a reminder you had not fully heard. I want you to understand that these images are not necessarily precise recordings of every future event, but they may be opening scenes, helping you recognize what is growing within your heart, and which version of you is waiting to awaken. Imagine your life as a great work still being completed through every season. What you saw consisted only of brief moments, like light flashing behind a curtain that has not yet been opened. You may have seen the result without seeing the process, felt the destination without understanding the road, or recognized a calling without knowing where to begin. This does not mean that you should sit and wait for everything to appear on its own. A glimpse becomes meaningful only when it awakens you from delay and helps you prepare for what you desire. If you repeatedly see yourself living in abundance, begin learning to manage what you already possess. If you sense that you will enter a greater assignment, develop your skills, discipline, and patience through the small work before you. If you see a peaceful home, begin building that peace through the way you speak, the people you choose, and the healthy boundaries you protect. I do not show you the possibilities of the future so that you can escape from the present, but so that you can understand how the present needs to be used. There were moments when you seemed to know something before it happened. A gentle thought appeared. A feeling caused you to pause, or an impulse led you to change your plans. And afterward, you realized that this awareness helped you avoid a mistake or notice something others had not yet recognized. You wondered whether your mind was deceiving you, but the truth is that you became more perceptive through years of observation and experience. Your mind may absorb small details you have not yet consciously named and connect them into a clear impression. I want you to value this sensitivity without turning every passing thought into something mysterious. If a feeling warns you about someone, observe their actions, listen to how they speak, and give time permission to reveal the truth. If you feel an opportunity approaching, prepare your application, knowledge, and necessary resources. If a dream makes you uneasy, examine whether something within your present life is creating stress. Genuine guidance will always bring you closer to clarity, responsibility, and peace, rather than pushing you into panic. You have also felt drawn toward a place, field, or purpose you could not explain. Perhaps you have always felt deeply moved by a particular group of people, wanted to help with a certain problem, or continually thought about work different from your current path. This prompting does not necessarily mean you must abandon everything immediately to chase what remains unclear. It may be an invitation to begin researching, learning, and experimenting through small actions. What belongs to you will not fear examination. If that direction continues bringing clarity, after a season of prayer, observation, and practice, you may move farther. If it appears only during emotional moments and quickly disappears, remain calm and wait. I do not want you to confuse temporary emotion with an enduring calling. What is truly suitable will return with consistency while helping you become kinder, more responsible, and more stable. Perhaps you have repeatedly imagined a life so different from the present that you felt embarrassed to acknowledge it. In that image, you were no longer controlled by scarcity, no longer bowed before disrespect, and no longer lived in relationships that continually made you question your value. You saw yourself walking confidently, speaking clearly, using your abilities to create benefit, and surrounded by people who valued your presence. I want you to understand that this image was not given merely to comfort you. It is a question placed before you. Are you willing to become the person capable of living within that future? If you want respect, you must learn not to accept humiliation. If you want stability, you need to develop discipline. If you want a healthy relationship, you must stop returning to places that bring only chaos. A beautiful future requires more than an opening door. It requires enough maturity to enter without carrying old habits inside. If these words are reaching you and you want to write, "I have seen my future," treat it as an affirmation to yourself that you will no longer mock the good desires within your heart. However, do not believe that a comment can replace genuine steps. Heaven heard you before your fingers touched the screen. If you choose to subscribe or enable notifications, do so because you want to continue receiving reminders that help you remain aware, not because you fear that missing one message will cause the future to close. I do not keep guidance for you in only one place. I may remind you through an honest conversation, timely counsel, a page in a book, an event, or a moment when you sit quietly and finally hear what something within you has been saying for a long time. An action on a screen should remain voluntary, while genuine readiness is revealed through the way you live after the screen becomes dark. You did not find these words in order to receive the complete map of your future. You came to be reminded that you are not a powerless spectator within your own story. The images you once saw may have kept hope alive while your reality remained too narrow. But now you need to enter your part of the work. You cannot determine every event, but you can choose how to prepare. You cannot control who remains or leaves, but you can refuse to lose your value because of them. You do not know exactly when opportunity will appear, but you can train yourself so that when it comes, you are discerning enough to recognize it. You cannot return and rewrite the years behind you, but you can prevent them from creating the same ending in the future. The film of your life does not begin on the day everything becomes perfect. It begins on the day you stop standing outside and decide to cooperate with the goodness being formed. Observe the changes appearing within you. You may no longer feel satisfied within places that once seemed safe. You begin wanting to learn something new, end a cycle, or live more honestly. Chaotic emotions that once attracted you now feel exhausting, while peace that once seemed boring becomes what you desire. You are beginning to recognize the difference between beautiful words and consistent actions, and between temporary attention and care that accepts responsibility. You no longer want to prove yourself to everyone, nor continue exchanging peace for the feeling of acceptance. These changes are important signs because they show that you are becoming someone capable of entering a new chapter without repeating the old way of living. Therefore, my beloved child, do not dismiss what you once felt, but neither should you turn it into a guarantee that causes you to stop acting. Write down the dreams that frequently return, identify the themes within them, and ask whether they are reflecting a fear, desire, or possibility. Then choose one practical step. If you repeatedly see yourself sharing knowledge, begin by offering something useful to one person. If you imagine financial freedom, build a plan and change one spending habit. If you feel called to support others, begin through one compassionate action today. Small steps are the first scenes of the future you once saw. I allowed you to see those glimpses, so that you would not believe the present is your final limitation. But I do not want you to live forever through previews. The time has come to enter the story through faith, accompanied by wisdom, hope accompanied by discipline, and intuition accompanied by verification. You have not seen the entire journey, because certain things can be understood only when you become mature enough to carry them. Be at peace with what remains unknown. The future does not need to be fully revealed in order to become good. What you once saw has completed its purpose of awakening you. Now the way you choose, prepare, and persevere will determine whether those images become a real life or remain dreams that were never fulfilled.